Welcome everybody to another edition of our JV January as we continue. This is the last Tuesday evening of January. Believe it or not, the month has gone by and we are here. So we've had an awesome month so far talking about everything raising capital, about everything joint venturing. And so we're going to kind of continue that theme tonight and share some stories of real people that are really doing and using this strategy and have used the strategy of joint venturing to build their real estate portfolios. And so we're going to bring on 5 different people tonight that you can learn from and just pick out little things from each one. That's kind of the point of this, is everybody's journey is slightly different. Everybody's coming into this world of real estate investment from a different angle or for maybe a different purpose. And so the whole reason for tonight is to kind of, hopefully by maybe one person's story or maybe a couple, you will find little points that might apply to you, little points that you can apply to help you joint venture, help you raise the capital necessary to continue in this world of real estate investment. So as you come on, guys, say hello. Thanks for joining us. And it's going to be an awesome evening tonight. So here we go. Let's get started. Hey guys, it's Corey and Tiffany, and we're the co-founders of Investor Life.
And we help investors scale their portfolios using other people's money. Fearless, welcome to another Tactical Tuesday.
Welcome to another Tactical Tuesday. We have a really cool topic that we're going to be talking about tonight. This, guys, I hope is a scenario that shows you the power of leveraging your money.
We help investors take their portfolios from 2 or 3, 5 properties maybe, up to 15, 20, 50 properties if that's what they're wanting to.
Really, the sky's the limit.
And we help investors scale their portfolio.
For our free weekly live trainings that we do over there on Facebook. Thanks for...
Hey guys, it's Corey from Investor Life, and Tiffany just stuck out her tongue at me. Okay.
Yeah, that was a bad rendition. But guys, today, what wrecks people in real estate? We're going to be talking about that, and we're going to make sure that it doesn't happen to you. Welcome back, everybody. JV January continues, and nice to see everybody. Nice to see all the comments in the chat. We have people from all across Canada again this evening. St. Albert and Cape Breton and Cochrane and Edmonton, Robin. I think you spelled that wrong. Fort Saskatchewan, Edmonton, Manitoba, etc. So welcome, guys, from all across. Oh, and you guys, are you home, Angie and Andrew? Welcome back to Canada from your amazing trip. I saw some of your pictures that looked fantastic. So excellent to see everybody. And tonight, guys, we're going to continue the theme of joint venturing. So if you remember, first off, we're going to start with a little recap of our month. Second off, we are going to give you a reminder of an event that's coming up here in February. And then third, we're going to kind of jump in and interview a few different people from all parts of Canada that are using this strategy right now and maybe get some experiences from them. How has it worked for them? How difficult was it? How easy was it? And are they still wanting to continue using this strategy? So we're going to find that out tonight. Okay, so January has gone like this, guys. Our first week, we started by building the foundation. How does a JV work? How do the numbers work? How do the splits work? Who gets what as far as percentages? And how does that money flow work? So that was our week number 1. If you haven't watched that yet, Jules will share the link for week number 1 here in the chat. You can always go back and watch that and get caught up. Week number 2, we then rolled along talking about the different pieces of paperwork that are really helpful when it comes to raising capital or maybe finding a joint venture partner. We went through a letter of intent. We looked at a few points in a JV agreement, and that helped to clarify for some people really the things you need to know if you're going to joint venture with somebody. If you're going to partner with somebody in real estate and be in that partnership for maybe many years, what are some of the discussions you need to have up front? Okay, so that was week number 2. Week number 3, we talked about where to find partners, where to find these people that want to invest in real estate, but maybe don't want to do any of the work. And we kind of talked about how to change some of the regular conversations that we're having on an everyday basis so that we can start planting seeds or dropping hooks for the people that we're talking to already. So that was week number 3. Last week, we talked about once you get to an actual meeting with somebody, whether that's on Zoom or whether that's in person, what are some of the things not to do in that meeting? We talked about 7 key takeaways that were really, really important, that we make sure that conversation goes smoothly. We're not wasting our time, wasting other people's time and having all of these meetings, maybe for people that want to invest. How can we close those conversations? How can we get the commitment from the people that we're talking to? So that was week number 4. And I'm sure Jules, as we go along here, will share the links for each of the weeks. She's really good at doing that. There we go. Week number 1, there's the link. Week number 2, there's the link. And she will share it for week 3 and 4 as well. So tonight, we kind of wrap up this theme of Joint Venture January because we're going to share with you some folks that are actually using this as a strategy. And you have the opportunity, guys, as you're watching this, if you have questions, you want to ask them questions, throw it in the chat and we will make sure that you get the answers to your questions, okay? So, yeah, there we go. Don't be shy. Okay, so let's get started, guys. Oh, before we do, one last reminder is tomorrow is the end. Now, this doesn't apply to Ignited members, but for everyone else, tomorrow is the end of our early bird for our boot camp. The boot camp starts February 23, 24 and continues February 26. So it's a Friday night, a Saturday, and we conclude on a Monday evening. And this boot camp, we're going to kind of go through some of the principles we talked about this month, but we're going to expand on it quite a bit. We're going to kind of go to the next level of how do we actually really do some of this stuff and how do we get it complete? How do we get that actual commitment? And what do things look like afterwards? How do we report to our partners? All of these sorts of things we're going to discuss in our boot camp so that you have a really clear picture of how this process works, okay? So if you haven't joined up yet, our early bird is 50% off. I'm sure Jules will share the link for that as well here in the chat, and you can click on that and you can join us. Tomorrow is, so it's $197 to join our boot camp, but it's 50% off. Right now with our early bird. That ends tomorrow night. Okay, there we go. Let's get started on our theme tonight. Is anyone doing this joint venture thing? Let's bring somebody on that I'm sure some of you have met at some point, have talked to. This person has been on our Tactical Tuesdays before. And actually, Brian, we are going to be having him on later on in February, actually, fairly quickly. I got to check the date. It might even be next week. I'm not sure. Or maybe the week after that. I'm not sure. But Brian, we're going to bring you on. Brian from Freedom Vest Properties. You are a real estate investor. You're one of our Ignited members. And you're doing this thing called real estate investment, aren't you, Brian?
We're at it full time. Great to be here, Corey. Thanks for having me. Yes, we've been at this real estate investing thing full time since 2017. The story goes back quite a few years before that, but yeah, really jumped in and fully committed since 2017. So it's been yeah, we're into year 7 here now and still growing strong and actually just getting started, right? So yeah,
some of the stuff you're doing right now is quite amazing and really cool product that you're building. And maybe we'll talk about that in a minute. But before we do that, Brian, I want to kind of go back because some of the people that are watching this, you know, we've been talking about joint venturing, we've been talking about raising capital. And I don't know if it was the same for you, but when I first started, me and Tiffany's first started learning about real estate investment, we saw people doing it. We saw people raising capital and joint venturing. And we were kind of like, well, I could see them doing it, but I'm not sure if I'll be able to do it. Did you ever at the very beginning have doubts as to whether or not this would work for you?
Yeah, kind of the same. I think, you know, you see everyone doing it, but I did think, and that was one of the few things I really had going for me at the start was, you know, if they can do it, I can do it.
Okay.
So I did fully, wholeheartedly, have faith and believe in myself. I had that 100% commitment, willing to do whatever it takes, and that drive, that work ethic to do that. So that was not an obstacle that I faced. Where that comes from is maybe tough to pinpoint, but somewhere in my life I just picked that trait up that I can do this. I can do this, right?
Okay.
I would attribute that to my parents and drilling that mindset into me. But yeah, I mean, I felt,
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, hey, that's awesome, because some of our viewers might have the same point of view. There's some out there that might doubt the fact that they can do this. And there's some out there that say, or have your point of view and say, hey, I'm 100% in. I have no doubt I can do this. How long did it take you from first learning about real estate investment to actually doing your first deal where you brought in a partner? What kind of time span are we talking? Like, did you read a book one day and the next day you had a partner? Like, how did this work for you?
Yeah, so that's I knew what it was, but I didn't quite know how, and then taking it one step further to who, that took a few years. So I guess, our first real investment property was 2014. I had bought some property before that, but for investment purpose that we renovated and added a legal basement suite to was in 2014. So the first partner wasn't until 2018, I believe it was. So we had a couple properties under our belt on our own, and I actually really wanted to prove the concept on my own first, and risk my own time, risk my own money. We used our own capital and mortgage qualifying to prove that concept to ourselves. But yeah, it took some traction. It took some time until going all in, 2017 full time at it, that the partners did start coming.
Okay. So would you say that there was like an aha moment, or there was like something, maybe a tool that you received, or maybe it was something that kind of clicked that all of a sudden, okay, this thing that you had been hearing about, and here's the thing, you had a background of construction, right? So you had a background of dealing with properties, dealing with property issues, all of that sort of stuff. So that you weren't scared of. But, the whole side of things about making partnerships and bringing other investors in, you said that you didn't want to risk other people's money at the very beginning. You wanted to do it yourself. So at what point did it kind of make sense to you? Was there anything that you remember back when you think back that kind of helped you get over that hurdle of now accepting someone else's money?
Oh, geez, that's a good question. I think it was just leading up, preparing myself over those years that this is what I was going to do, and thinking and putting myself in that position that, I'm going to do that eventually one day. So when it did happen, it was super exciting, but it almost didn't, come at a surprise in a way that, I already knew that this is the way it was going to be, and this is what was going to happen. It was just going to take the time if I keep putting the work in. I think one of the biggest pivotal moments, though, that, partners, we started getting some momentum was that we stopped selling the deal. So this is a people business, and it was more, it's more about, don't get me wrong, the deal is super important, but it comes secondary to the people and aligning the people together with the shared vision and goals. So it was more about finding a fit and a suitable partner to go into business with, and selling myself more than a deal. So that came secondary. I think that was a big shift.
Okay, absolutely. I really like that point. And so for everybody listening, that is a big point that Brian is bringing up here. Is, I don't know how many people, might want to advertise a potential opportunity and all they talk about is the property, right? And the numbers and the spreadsheets and that sort of thing. But what you're saying is, when the shift happened of not focusing as much on the property, but more focusing on building the relationship, building the trust, and finding a partner that you could work well with. That was more important than selling the deal, so to speak.
That is everything. That is the foundational. It all starts with the trust and building that relationship. There's thousands of deals out there, so once that partnership is formed and, you're committed to each other and you know that you want to do this together, then you go out and find a property. And that's in my opinion, the way to do it.
Yeah. And I think back to when we were really raising capital strongly, our JV partners, when we would find a property, and we were at the time doing several properties a month, and when we'd find a really good property, I'd just send them an email quickly or a phone call and say, hey, we got another one. We need X amount of dollars. We close on this date. Are you in? Yeah, I'm in. He didn't even know, never saw the properties, never came to Edmonton, nothing. It was just the trust was there. The relationship was built. Yeah. We got another deal. He trusts that we're going to pick the right ones. And in that case, and bang, we move on. And so it does change from selling the deal to building that relationship. Absolutely. Good point, Brian. So question, in this whole JV world that you're in, what would you say is the most difficult thing? Is there stuff has it always been rosy, or have there been hurdles to overcome in building these relationships, creating these relationships and keeping them going and keeping them positive?
I mean, that's another great question, Corey. It definitely has not been rosy. There's, it's not if, but when things happen, and you got to plan for that in the beginning. Things will happen. It's not going to be smooth sailing. It is a long-term investment, minimum 5-10 years type thing. So things are definitely going to come up. And I think that's the true testament of, how well that relationship has been built, how well, it's been communicated, or the expectations been set with your partners, and how those problems are solved. So, it's been a huge list of things that have gone on, and, typically the way that we like to approach it, the main reason why people are in business with us or work with us is that so that they don't have to do the work. Maybe they don't have the time or the knowledge or the desire to do it on their own, but they can lean on us to take care of that work. So we really try to respect that fact that when things do come up, we take care of it, and maybe not necessarily depending on what it is, but we definitely communicate what, we're fully transparent, but we actually, depending on what it is, let them know, after the problem's solved, after it's taken care of, look, this is what happened. This is what we did to mitigate it or take care of it, problem solved, and move on. So we don't want to bring, any or towards, our partnership in that matter. So.
Okay. So good communication. From what I heard from what you said was there's always going to be problems that come up, unexpected things, but as long as the communication back and forth is good, your partners do get updated, you are solving the problems, then you just continue on, right?
That's right.
Yeah. Awesome. Are you still looking to bring on partners into some of your deals?
Well, yeah, I mean, we're joint venturing and partnering, and this is essentially the lifeblood of the business. If you are doing it full time, it becomes a point where that's really one of the only ways that you can continue to grow and scale. So most certainly, we welcome new partners, and we're continuing to grow and scale our portfolio, and committed long term to being the active working partner to help our partners achieve their goals. Awesome. If someone wants to get a hold of you, Brian, where do they go? The single best place would be Facebook. I mean, Perfect. We're all on here right now. That's the easiest. Reach out. Okay. Happy to have a chat. Happy to help. Yeah. Okay, perfect. Jules just shared a link to message you. So if somebody's watching this and
it wants to get a hold of Brian, says, hey, I'd like to talk a little bit more about maybe joint venturing with you. Brian's link there is in the chat. So feel free, guys, to just get a hold of him and have a conversation with Brian. He'll let you know what he's up to. And Brian, I guess you are coming back next week. So we're going to be talking a little bit about your project and a little bit different. You know, today is about joint venturing and it's about raising capital and all of that kind of thing. But next week, we're going to be talking a little bit more about what you have going on and the whole process that you've been in the development stage of really cool buildings. And so we're going to talk about that next week. So
awesome.
Yeah. 2 weeks in a row having Brian on.
Right on.
Thanks,
Appreciate
Brian.
it.
We'll bring you back on here in a bit. We're going to move on because we've got a few others. So thanks again, Brian.
Thank you.
Okay. There we go, guys. There's one example. There's a couple key takeaways there. Number one, don't be selling the deal. Build a relationship. That's what I heard. Okay. Number two, always have good communication with your partners. And that keeps that relationship strong. Okay. Obviously, there was a lot more points in there, but there's a couple things that we can take from that. Secondly, we're going to bring on Melanie Robinson, and a lot of you guys, welcome, Mel. I didn't even give you an intro.
It's like, boom.
You are now on and live with us. So, Melanie, welcome to our Tactical Tuesday tonight.
Hey, Corey, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So a lot of our Fearless members and those watching on YouTube know who you are, Mel. You do our momentum calls in our Ignited group. So you keep the momentum going for a lot of our Ignited members.
I hope so.
Yes. And I hear nothing but good feedback from those. And we can see in the chat there, a lot of thanks to you, Brian, and a lot of hello and welcomes to you, Mel. So, okay, let's ask you kind of the same questions, Mel, but we're trying to stick to the theme tonight of joint venturing. And I have a question. When you first got started into this world of real estate investing, did you believe that you, Melanie Robinson, could be a successful real estate investor?
I love Brian was like so calm and cool. Oh yeah, I've always known that I could do it. I was like, whoa, that's amazing. Because no, I did not feel that way, truthfully. I mean, I hoped, and I feel like there must have been a part of me that believed it. Otherwise, if there's not a part of you that believes it, I wouldn't have done what I did to achieve it. So yeah. On one hand, yes, but on the other hand, no. And it changed from day to day too, depending on what was going on. Or, you know, it took a long time for me to get traction once I joined Ignited. And I mean, I'd been investing before, but once I started JVing, it took me a long time. So there were lots of days that I really wondered if I was ever going to be able to do this, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So these are things that a lot of people watching this might be feeling as well. That, you know,
a year and a half.
Yeah. Okay. So you were not only, you know, involved in this world, you were a part of our Ignited membership. You were taking the trainings. I remember you were asking question after question in our laser sessions. And, you know, you had the knowledge, but then it still took time for you to create the relationships that were necessary to JV, or what was it that kind of finally, after a year and a half of really putting yourself into this, was there a turning point? And if there was, what was that turning point?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of, it was like, it's a puzzle you put together, right? So I'd been investing since I joined RAIN in 2015, started investing in 2016, did quite a bit on our own, new builds and flips and BRRRRs and all sorts of things. But then the idea of doing this in partnership with other people became a completely different, like, yes, I knew how to do this, but obviously it's a huge responsibility when all of a sudden you're investing other people's money. Yeah. I also really wanted to provide opportunities that I was super excited about that weren't, you know, I being in BC, I didn't feel like the numbers here were super exciting and achievable for investors. So that was like a hurdle that I faced. Where was I going to do this? How was I going to do this if it wasn't going to be in BC? So I spent a year and a half, like Zooming all day, every day. Seriously, it was like a full-time job of just building relationships, connecting, finding out what people were doing, where, how. which ultimately, like a year and a half of that and doing Ignited, and I was so committed, which is part of why I felt super discouraged when things weren't coming together, because it was like, I'm doing all of this and yet I didn't have a single JV property. But when it landed for me. So, I did all of that sort of, what I can see now was all of the legwork, all of the groundwork. And then all of a sudden I knew where I was investing, how I was doing it. And I had built all of these relationships. I had created a presence in the Fearless community. And so when everything came together, like it came together.
Yes, absolutely. And it kind of, so just a quick snapshot of, and I know you don't like to brag or anything, and that's not what this is, but what have you been able to achieve real estate wise because you have joint ventured with other people versus just doing it yourself?
Oh gosh. I mean, I think I have 16 JV partners right now, 16 properties with JV partners, with a couple more coming up in the next couple of weeks. So almost 100 doors, 90 something doors.
Amazing.
So, I had a handful on our own. It changed everything. Like, I feel like I could be the Ignited spokesperson, and I try hard not to sound too like, you need to join Ignited because it changed my life. But learning about JVing, for me, it also sparked a passion in me. So that's another piece of it. Like, not only, it actually wasn't about the properties or the doors. It was like, when I realized I could make a difference in other people's lives and create win-wins, that lit something up inside of me that it was like there was no stopping me once I realized that that's what I could do. So it changed everything.
Amazing. Well done. So first of all, give yourself a pat on the back for what you have done. You deserve it.
And I say thank you to you guys. You know that. I thank you every chance I get.
Well, yes, you do say that a lot, and we appreciate you saying thank you, but you put the work in, and at the end of the day, you followed the system, and it took a while. For us, it took a year and a half of going to RAIN meetings too, and we went to Calgary and Vancouver and Toronto and Edmonton and every single month, and we were doing multiple meetings every month and meeting different people and networking and all of that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And it took us a year and a half before we bought our first property too. So it took you a while before you really getting in there and doing this before it actually started to flourish. But once it flourished, we bought over 100 properties in a 3-year period. You've now got over 100 doors in what, a same couple of years kind of thing.
Yeah, I joined Ignited in 2019, right?
Yeah. So amazing things can start to eventually just start to blossom, right? And I love the fact that you made a point of, you make a difference in other people's lives. And we talk about that on our bootcamp is, it's as much about reaching our own why, but if we're helping others reach their why, wow, what a difference that can make. Because if we're helping others reach theirs, well, we're getting closer to ours as well.
And that's what changed everything for me. So, without going into all the details, I was going to leave real estate investing because I wasn't fulfilled and I hated it. And then my realtor said, I met this girl, I think you'd really like her. I hopped on Bootcamp. And what happened in Bootcamp is you guys were the first people I had ever heard talk about being good humans, creating win-wins, making a difference. And it's like the light bulb came on, and finally what the piece that I had been missing, which was to have this actually have meaning beyond getting a door, because I don't care about that piece. So that is exactly what changed everything for me.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Well, that is great. And we're all happy to see you along your journey and everywhere you're going. And it's awesome. Okay. One last question before we move on, because we got a couple more people to interview here. Has it always been rosy? Unicorns and rainbows, or have there been difficulties along the way now?
It's always been rosy. Every day is a ray of sunshine, Corey.
Yes.
No, of course, there's been tons and tons of obstacles and challenges. And
what has helped you get through the obstacles and the hurdles and the challenges that you have? What if there was one tool or one thing that you could say, okay, this helped me to get through, what would it be? Anything stick out?
Well, I mean, one is like a no-brainer for me to say is mindset, and just not allowing yourself to sink into the holes, right?
Mhm.
To be committed to that piece of it. So it's like, if you want to be successful, if you want to have great relationships, all, if you want to create success and all those things, then you have to stay on top of that piece, because otherwise you just go down into a dark hole, and fear and all that stands in your way. So I mean, that's a big one. Another big one is the community. It's like, it's having the community to lean on, to know that you're not alone, to be able to bounce ideas off of people, or even just have a down day. Like, you're not going to go in fearless and say, like, oh my gosh, I can't believe what just happened. But you can go into Ignited and say, oh my gosh, I can't believe what just happened. And you'll have a group of people who will lift you up, or give you an idea, or give you a resource. So community, super important. Mindset, super important.
Love it. Love it. That's excellent. Are you still raising capital, Mel, or are you done and retired and never doing anything more again?
I am still raising capital. I'm still raising capital. Right now we're doing a 30 unit development in Victoria, doing the missing middle. So we're raising capital for that. So yeah.
So if someone wants to get a hold of you, what's the best way?
I was going to say my website, which is what I had mentioned, but also Facebook. I heard Brian say Facebook, and really that's where I live. So
perfect. Jules just shared your website, but
okay.
I'm sure she'll also share your
either
Facebook.
way.
Either way. Okay, perfect. So if somebody wants to connect with Mel, there you go. That's how you do it, guys. Thanks for sharing that, Mel. I would love to have you on another time soon to maybe chat about how you have become, quote unquote, a working partner on properties on the other side of the country without using a hammer and nails and stroking a paintbrush. Because I think that a lot of people have the idea that if I'm going to be a working partner, I have to do all of the hands-on work. But what you have done is different from that. And I think that would be valuable for people to hear. So maybe at some point we can chat about that.
That'd be amazing, because I bet you a big stumbling block is if people don't live in a province where the numbers work well, they feel like they can't do this.
Absolutely.
And that's not the truth.
Absolutely. Okay, perfect. So we should, Jules is listening, so maybe Jules will reach out to you and we'll book you in. That would be a good, so February is FAQ February. So we're going to be talking about a lot of different questions, and that is a big one. So maybe we can have you on at some point in February to chat about that.
Sure. I'm happy to help if I can.
Okay, great. Thanks for joining us, Mel. And we'll have you back on in a couple minutes.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay, next, guys, we're going to bring on another investor that's been investing for a number of years and has done it with others as well, with joint venture partners. And this is Donna Cook, and she's actually combined a few different strategies. So not only joint venturing, but also using the rent to own strategy. So welcome to the stage, Donna. Nice to have you here again.
Hey, it's great to be here.
Okay, perfect. So Donna, I know that you used several different strategies when it comes to real estate investment. I know a big one for you is doing rent to owns, but you've also obviously had joint venture partners as well. And so let me kind of go back a little ways. When you first got into this whole world of real estate investment, and this is the same question we asked Brian and Mel, did you have any stumbling blocks thinking that you maybe couldn't do it? Everybody else could, but you couldn't. Was there anything holding you back way in the very beginning?
I think we just kind of fell into it in a sense, thought, let's flip a house. Okay. And we sold it in no time. We're going, wow, that was easy. Okay. But then the next one was every single challenge you can even think of was in that house. So then we learned, okay, it's not as easy as it looks. We were just flipping and building cottages and doing things like that. Never really thought too much about, about partners or anything. And then it was a friend that wanted to work together. So then we bought a small multifamily together. And that's when I realized I could help people in another province, because they're from BC, and, it was much cheaper, and the ROI was here, so we could work together. But it was easy, actually, because we were friends. And there was none of these groups out there. So Rain was the only thing. And I used to see you at Rain, and I'd fly to Calgary and Edmonton to learn what I could. And I just took their JV agreement off their website, to start. And then after that, got much more sophisticated. But that kind of fell into it, and at the beginning anyway.
Yeah. Okay. And you mentioned something that I think is good for everybody to kind of think about for a second. And that is that the first JV partner that you had, or the first partner that you had, was a friend. So I'm curious if you can think back to way back when you started to kind of solidify this partnership. How did this friend find out that you were doing this stuff? How did this friend get, and did they approach you and say, "Hey, Donna, I heard you're doing this, or I've seen you do that, and I want to get involved"? Or did you market to your friend? How did that whole thing work?
Sitting around having a glass of wine, let's do something together. They were already investing in real estate, and it was just not affordable anymore in BC. So we said, let's do it together, and it just went from there. But we did do it legitimately. We did take that agreement to the lawyer, got it better. But, since then I've learned more. But, it worked out really well, and they invested in other things after that as well.
Amazing.
But I think we didn't think of it as just friends. Yes, it was a little easier to discuss things, but it was still all very legal and, financials, everything, communication. It was all there.
Okay, awesome. I just wanted to point that out because, a lot of people watching, and we talked about this in week 3 of JV January, was where to find partners and having conversations with people. And sometimes those people are our friends, or maybe they're our family, and they find out what we're doing and they say, "Hey, why don't we do something together?" And that's kind of where some of our first partnerships might start occurring. And in your case, it was. Okay, next question. What was the hardest part for you in joint venturing? Was it finding partners, or was the hardest part finding properties? Like, what would you say out of those two things is more difficult for you to find?
Well, when I was doing rentals, I'd rather have the partner first. Always would rather have the partner first. To me, it's a relationship. I never ever send out stuff and just say, "Hey, double-digit returns" or something like that. I want a relationship, and even if people reach out to me, I won't send anything to them. We get on a Zoom call and talk, and we need to know that we can get along for the next few years, and we have the same values that align. Our goals are the same. But when it does come to rent own, it can be a little juggling, because I have a tenant buyer, a house, and an investor, and I have to put all three together at the same time and make sure they all align.
Yeah, that's being really creative, and really we call that being a transaction engineer, because you're coming up with solutions that you just can't follow a simple system. Sometimes you have to be creative, right, and figure out all of these different moving parts that are happening. So very good job in doing that, Donna. And I know you've been successful in doing your rent to owns out in the Manitoba area. And what would you say is the biggest hurdle that you've had to overcome when it comes to having a JV partner?
I don't know. It's gone well. Like, I feel like it's really gone well, maybe because of the relationships. And I didn't really start looking for joint venture partners because I was flipping so many houses and we're building a bit and things like that. And until you started, and you were the changing point for me. Really, like you and Tiffany, because then I just thought, I want to do something different. I don't want to keep flipping houses. And now I took it seriously to go out and get JV partners. And I got a lot through Fearless. I have a lot to be thankful for here. And then once, pandemic and stuff, COVID, and then I just got onto Zoom, and we made so many relationships that way. So I think communication is really important, and that sometimes that can be a little bit of a hurdle. But, as long as you try to have an open communication, I think that solves a lot of problems.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, good points. Again, some of the things that I'm taking from what you mentioned was one, you started off with a relationship with a friend, and obviously it's expanded into many different joint venture partners since then, but that might be a place that people could start to focus on. You focused on the relationship more than actually the property, and building that relationship, having a partner first, and then let's work together, and then you go out there and find a property. So it's kind of an easier transition to go through. So thanks for sharing that. If you had one word of advice for a newbie starting into the JV world right now, what would it be, Donna? Anything come to mind?
I would say education.
Okay.
Learn how to do this, do some of it on your own. Don't just jump out there and decide you want to be a JV partner if you don't know what you're doing yet. You need to be comfortable with your skills first. And I get that for rent to own too. People say, oh, I want to rent to own, but you shouldn't. You know what I mean? Like, learn how to do it first, because that's somebody's money that you are taking care of. In my case, I'm also taking care of a rent-own tenant, and I stay in that deal right to the end, and I want to make sure everybody is protected.
Yeah, absolutely. Love it. Thank you, Donna, for joining us, and we're going to move on to our next guest, but we'll have you back on for a couple minutes at the end, Donna. So thanks for joining us, and great words of advice. We really appreciate that. Okay, and hopefully you guys are getting some gems out of this. I've written down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 so far that I'm going to share with you at the end to kind of wrap this up. But before we do that, we have one more couple to bring on, and this is Craig and Lisa O'Casey. They're also Ignited members of ours, and so let's bring them on to the stage. Welcome, Craig and Lisa.
Hello. How are you?
Hey.
Good. Welcome, and nice to have you here. And yes, Angie, she says in the comments, what an amazing lineup tonight. Yes, it is an amazing lineup of good humans doing good things, helping other people, and hey, they gain success along the way as well. And so you two are also a great example of that. And I want to first of all chat about the very beginning. I remember, Craig, you saying in the very beginning, or Craig and Lisa, mainly Craig, because you were the one that said you were working in other people's houses that were investors, and you were doing renovations, doing construction, doing that sort of thing for them. And you kind of always thought to yourself, well, I want to be the one that is the investor. I want to be the one hiring somebody that's going to be doing the work in my home. I want to be the one that owns this property. Do you remember those days, Craig?
Oh yeah, clearly, for sure. And you nailed it. That was, first of all, I want to say thank you for having us, especially in this lineup of absolute rock stars. So we appreciate being on. But yeah, that was the TSN turning point, if you will. We had, I've had a construction business for a long time, and this is kind of what we've done. In fact, when me and Lisa first met, I was in the middle of flipping a house. But the turning point was when we actually sat down with you and Tiffany, and you guys had asked how many properties we had renovated or jobs we had done like that. And, 30, 40, 50 maybe. And the turning point was when you or Tiffany said, imagine if you still owned all of them. And that was the point where we had to think differently. And that's where we had to start thinking as an investor and be educated as an investor, as opposed to a construction person.
Okay. Do you think, and Lisa, feel free to chime in here too, when you first kind of came into this world of joining Fearless and came into this world of real estate investing, did you ever have a thought of everyone else can do it, but maybe not me? Did you ever have any doubts when you first came in?
Yeah, we had many doubts. We didn't know where to begin or what we were supposed to even do. And so I guess that's when we hit up the boot camp and learned a lot, met tons of people that were doing it or that were just starting out. And we thought, well, if they can do it, we could do it. And so that was probably our point of looking at each other and we're like, well, we can either keep doing what we're doing, or we can change our ways and try something new. It's like that whole thing of the insanity. Keep doing what you're doing. So we thought, expecting different results. So we wanted a different result.
Okay. That's a great point. And I remember when we first got started too, we made the decision. We had a company at the time, you know, it was an okay company, it was bringing in cash, but we said, if we focus for 5 years more on this company, or we focus for 5 years on real estate, where are we going to be in 5 years? You know, depending on which route we took. And obviously real estate made more sense at the time. And thank goodness we made that choice back when we did. But that's really good. Okay. So you did have doubts at the beginning. What changed your mindset? Was there anything that, okay, you know, I don't know if I can do it or anything like that. But then you said you went to boot camp, but was there anything that kind of changed your mindset that said, okay, we can definitely do this?
Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, we were a little bit different than some of the other people on the panel tonight. You know, Brian committed to it full time at a certain point. So did Melanie. And we just weren't able to commit to it full time yet. So that was intimidating. That kind of in some ways made us feel like, you know, maybe we had to do this full time in order to be successful at it. And how could we fit this into our normal day-to-day lives with kids in a construction company and busy lives and still be successful investors? And we want to plan for the future and figure out how we could, you know, do the same things that we're doing, bring all our skills to the table, but actually keep the properties. And that was the big turning point for us. But yes, there was a lot of doubt in the beginning. We knew we could do the construction, no problem. We just didn't know how we could partner. And that whole world was totally foreign to us.
Okay. Was there a specific tool? Okay. I know you mentioned you went to boot camp. I remember you guys coming, I think it was in March of 2022 when you joined, I think, or when you came to boot camp? Okay. So yeah, that was almost 2 years ago, roughly. You came to your boot camp. I remember telling you, Craig, okay, hold on. You had a million questions. I'm like, hold on, just come to the boot camp. And then if you have questions after that, then we can deal with it. And so for everybody that knows here, I've known Craig since I was 13, 14 years old. So we've had a bit of a different relationship than maybe others on here. But at the end of the day, you came to the boot camp, you learned some of these strategies, you learned that it is possible. Lisa made a really good point. You met tons of people that were actually doing it, which gave you belief. Was there any specific tool that made it easier for you, that kind of, you know, the concept of joint venturing versus actually really doing it? Was there anything specific hands-on that made it easier for you?
Yeah, so the training for sure, the weekly training that we receive made us have more confidence in it. But I think the biggest thing was that, you know, creating opportunities for ourselves as well as other people at the same time. That was the turning point that said we can do this, we want to do this, and we want to learn more.
Yeah. And I think for me, when we had the credibility package and we started going through it and saying like, okay, we have done a lot. Okay, we have had properties. We have done rentals for people. It just hasn't been in our world. We just didn't own the property, but we did all the rentals. So we're kind of doing the property management piece of it. So all these pieces fell into place. And then when we looked at the joint venture, like working partner duties, we're like, okay, we can do this. That's not that bad, right? And then we started talking about what our roles would be, and then who could be that investor for us, and what we wanted in that investor. So.
Okay. So you mentioned a couple tools there, the credibility package and the working partner duties list. So if anybody is wondering, those are two documents we have in our investor toolbox that obviously Ignited members have access to. But those tools, I like the point that you mentioned that The credibility, when you're filling out your credibility package, the purpose of that is to help you build credibility with somebody that you're giving it to, right? So they read it, they look at it, they say, oh yeah, these guys have done this before. They're credible. I have confidence in them. I can, I can invest with them. But what you said is that as you're filling it out, it helps you gain the confidence to say, hey, I actually am credible. And it built the credibility in your own mind. And so I think that's a really good point there, Lisa, that going through that process can definitely help to build that confidence that you need. So good point. Yeah. Okay. Have you joined back a couple of years ago, not quite 2 years now. Have you bought any real estate with partners to this point yet?
Yeah. So good question. The first year, similar to other people's stories and yours and Tiffany's story, we bought one property, a duplex, and turned it into a fourplex. We did that property on our own without any partners. And I think what we were doing is just trying to create a little bit more credibility, also trying to network and see who was who in the group and who we aligned with and things like that. And recently we have JV'd on a multi-family project with Rachel and Hermel. And we've bought a condo with Jenny Tram and Rich Sloan. And the snowball's starting to roll now with the JV partnerships. We're really excited about it. And we believe that we can do it. We don't have to know everything at this point, but we're learning as we're working. And we're really having fun.
Love it. I'm writing down another point that you just said. Don't have to know everything. I think that is a huge point, because everybody that gets into this, a lot of people that get into this start to think, I have to have the answers to every question there is out there before I get started, right? But the fact is that you can get started as long as you have people that you can get those answers from. Then, hey, get started, get the answers as you need them. You don't need to know everything up front. I really like that point. So you guys obviously have several JV partners now. You have several, multifamily, single family properties. And so you're doing an amazing job. And I know that you're kind of just getting started with this and you're going to take it to cool places. So thanks for sharing that. So let's say, are you guys still raising capital? Are you still looking for partners, Craig and Lisa?
Yeah, absolutely.
Sure.
Absolutely.
Okay. If someone wanted to get a hold of Craig and Lisa, and I forgot to ask Donna this, so we're going to ask her when we bring her back on. Craig and Lisa, how would they get a hold of you? What's the best way?
Facebook is the best way. Lisa and I have a combined account, so yeah, that's the best way.
Perfect. And I see that Jules just shared that. And maybe if you don't mind sharing Donna's as well, Jules, that will be great. And I'm just going to bring everybody back on. So we're going to bring Brian back on, Melanie and Donna. We have everybody back on the stage now. Thank you all for sharing your stories. I'm going to just give you 1 minute to think of, let's see, what should I ask? Something really, really hard. I'm going to ask, okay, one word of advice. Okay, but 3 words of advice. 3 words of advice. So not a sentence, not a paragraph, 3 words of advice to newbies or somebody watching this that you can give to them. And as you think about that, I'm going to go through some of the main points that we learned from tonight by talking to these amazing humans and really good investors. Number 1, guys, stop selling the deal, build a relationship. Number 2, create and always have good communication. Number 3, be focused on making a difference in other people's lives, not only your own. Number 4, have a positive mindset and have commitment towards what you're doing. Number 5, have a community around you to lean on, to ask questions, to get answers to questions you might have. Number 6, think about friends and family around you that you might be able to, let's go back, make a difference in their life. Or do you have any friends or family that you can make a difference in their life? Remember, it's not selling something to them. You're giving them an opportunity. Number 7, focus on the relationship. And you can see how these all kind of tie in together, you guys. We're kind of repeating some of the same things. But number 8, educate yourself. If you don't know the answers to it, start learning it. Educate yourself. Everybody out there, the best sports athletes in the world have coaches, have several coaches. So do you think us as real estate investors need that as well? Obviously. Meet tons of people if you have the opportunity to do that. Networking can help you do that. And lastly, but not least, you don't have to know everything as long as you have a good group of people around you. So those are some of the really cool points that I took from tonight. Now, let's go. Whoever wants to volunteer first, guys. 3 words of advice to somebody getting involved in real estate and might want to joint venture. Let's start with Brian.
A couple of mine came up there. So it's get educated, meet people, and Nike really did say it best. Just do it.
Okay, there. I was gonna get on you for like saying 12 words, but there you go. You wrapped it up with 3. Just do it. Okay, I like it, Brian. Donna, what are your 3 words of advice?
Well, I have a big poster here and it says, just do it with a solution.
Okay.
I look at that every day. I'm cheating. I'm saying 4 words. Don't beat yourself up. Every deal I did or every flip I did, I would go over it over and over and over in my mind, and what could I have done better and this and that. So just take the lesson from it and move on.
Gold, Donna.
Love it. Very good, Donna. I'll give you an allowance for one. You get a 1-word penalty, but that's okay. Melanie,
I'm looking for capital too. You didn't ask me that.
Oh yes. So Donna, what's the best way for people to get a hold of you, Donna?
Well, Facebook or my big long email there. But yeah, I'm always raising capital too.
Okay, perfect. So I think all of our guests here tonight are still looking for partners, guys. If anybody is watching, and feel free to connect with any one of them. Ask questions, ask the tough questions as to why, they are a good candidate to be partnered with. But they'll have some good questions for you too, I'm sure. Mel, 3 words of advice that you would give to somebody.
So the first thing that came to mind was do something today. Do something. Right? It's like you don't have to know it all. You don't have to do it all. But every day, do something that moves you closer to your goals.
Would that have anything to do with momentum, Mel?
Maybe.
I can tell. Yes. And for everyone,
What's one thing you can do today to move you closer to your goals?
Okay. Yes. You could tell she's the person that does our momentum calls. So there we go. Awesome. Thanks, Mel. Okay. Craig and Lisa, 3 words from you guys.
Do we get 3 each?
If you want.
Okay, go ahead, Lisa.
Just have your goals align and just trust.
Have your goals aligned. So that's 4. And then trust is 1. Okay, that's 5 words, but okay, we'll go with that. Have your goals aligned.
Craig gets 1 word.
Craig gets 1 word. That's 1 left. Yeah.
That's
okay,
usually
how
this works. Yeah, that's true. Educate yourselves. Education first. You're not as nervous when you understand how it works. Mindset. If we can do it, you can do it. And Melanie can help you get out of your own way. So she's the mindset coach. And the third one is surround yourself with like-minded people. Be in groups that are doing good things and be around people that are doing it.
Awesome. Love it. Really good words of advice, guys. Thank you for sharing that with us. A lot of praise in the chat here. And someone says, trust the process. I'm not sure. It just says Facebook user for me. Follow the leaders, says Sarah. Love momentum calls, says Joan. So yeah, there we go, guys. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for sharing a few words of wisdom tonight. We could probably go on for 3 or 4 hours talking about this stuff. It seems quick to go over it so quickly, but our time has elapsed. So thanks for joining us. We appreciate you all coming on, and I'm sure we'll have you all on at some other point as well to share a bit more about your story. So thanks again, guys.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.
Thank you.
There we go, guys. Thanks for joining us for another Tactical Tuesday. That wraps up our joint venture January. And we look forward to FAQ February. So we're going to have a couple posts here within Fearless. If you have questions that you want answered, we already have a whole bunch of pre-submitted questions that we're going to be going through throughout the month that have to do with joint venturing, have to do with raising capital, have to do with real estate investment in general. And of course, just one last reminder that we do have our boot camp coming up on February. It starts February 23rd, so we're just less than a month away, and our early bird ends tomorrow. So if you want to continue on this journey, you want to build some momentum, you want to gain some excitement towards this thing we call real estate investment, join us for our boot camp. It's $97 or $100, something like that, if you join before tomorrow. And you're going to have a really good weekend that could change your life. And I say that confidently based upon the fact that a lot of the people we interviewed tonight have also said the same thing, that coming to the boot camp changed the direction of where they were going when it comes to real estate investment. So guys, there's my little plug for it. Thanks for joining us tonight. We will see all of our Ignited members over in our Ignited session here in just a minute or two. And we appreciate you coming tonight. See ya.